welcome to another brand new episode of Dingers and Stingers, the podcast that has a heart out. So let's tarry no further. I'm Dallas, that's Drew, and that's Matt. And on this week's baseball episode, we are going to be talking about the Houston Astros a little later on. They're back on top, and we're going to think about why. We'll also take, as we always do, a trip over into the fan corner. We'll make some predictions for the next week of play, and we'll, of course, end with our own dingers and stingers. But before we do all that, the All-Star festivities are upon us as we record this. They are next week, and the Home Run Derby field is set. The All-Star rosters are set and ready to go, including all the substitute players that are going to come in when the actual players don't show up. And so we're going to talk about that first to start the show. So, like I said, All-Star rosters are out. We're going to start with the actual All-Star game. So, taking a look at these rosters, we all follow the season pretty closely as it's going on. We can tell who's going to make this team pretty much, at least the starters. But taking a look at the whole rosters, all the pitchers, all the players that have been selected now, I want to start with, what All-Star would have surprised you guys the most before the season started? So who made the All-Star team this year? It can be a starter, it can be a reserve, it can be anybody. But who would have surprised you the most if we told you at the beginning of the season they would be an All-Star?
Yeah, there's a number of guys that, you just told me at the beginning of the season, I would have been like, what? And when we recorded last week, we did know the starters at that point. That had been announced. And so, Dallas, you touched on Javier Baez making the All-Star team from the Detroit Tigers. And that's got to be number one on the list. I mean, we thought he was done as a player almost. I mean, the Tigers made that playoff run last year. He wasn't even a part of it. He had just been so bad ever since he signed that contract. So for him to make it and to even be starting, I mean, I know fan voting sometimes it's more favorites rather than the actual best, but I think this was such a good story and he's good enough that he should be an all-star, and I think that's got to be my most surprising all-star.
Yeah, I was going to go on the same team with Gleyber Torres. I think, again, it's just one of those players who I was like, sure, it could be solid, but I never thought that he'd be putting up the numbers he is. And, I mean, looking over, Detroit's got a lot of all-stars on their team this year, and for good reason. I mean, they're playing out of their minds, and they're winning games, so good for them. Just, I never would have thought Gleyber Torres, all-star starter at any position. It's just, I never would have saw it coming.
Yeah. A lot of surprises this year.
Torres making it. I mean, that in a prove-it year for him, that's pretty cool. We'll see where he goes at the end of the season. But yeah, the Tigers are doing great, and I want to shout out a couple of former Tigers. It's been a while, but Matthew Boyd, starting pitcher for the Cubs, made the team, and Robbie Ray, who we know won a Cy Young a couple years ago, but was coming back from injury, hadn't shown a ton, and he's been awesome for the Giants. So a couple of National League surprises for me coming into the year.
Yeah, 100%. And look, we all have our team's all-stars that we're going to be rooting for. But who are we most excited to watch play among the all-stars in this game? Who do we think might show up and do something fun? Who are we excited to watch get in there? It can be a pitcher, it can be anybody.
I think for me, the person I'm most excited to watch is James Wood. Not even going with a Padre. That dude is so exciting, and I think getting to see him around a really good stacked amount of players and against really good pitching and see what he can do. Because, I mean, wasn't it like 2 weeks ago he was like the first player since Barry Bonds to get intentionally walked? Was it like 4 times or 5 times in a game? Yeah, it's just like outrageous stuff for a kid at his age. We traded him away. Sad to see it, but also I'll always support. I'm excited to see what he can do. I'm glad he made it, even as a reserve.
Yeah, he's also going to be in the Home Run Derby, so excited for that. I'm going to pick another guy who is in the Home Run Derby, who he made the team as an addition, but I believe he'll be starting because I think both American League third baseman that made the roster initially, will not be participating, and that's going to be Junior Caminero with the Tampa Bay Rays. He's come on strong. He's had a great year. He will be, like I said, in the home run derby, but just a young guy in a lineup full of, I mean, it's an all-star lineup. I mean, what do you expect? But a lot of guys who have been there, done that, and I'm excited to see his bat in the middle of that lineup.
All right. Well, we've talked about who made it and who we're excited to see. Now let's talk about who didn't make it and who were all riled up about the fact that they were snubbed. We love that word around this time of year, all-star snubs. So let's talk some snubs. So who do you guys think was snubbed here? It could be, a popular one. It could be an underrated one that you might think of. But who should be on this team that is not on this team?
I've got one of each. I've got a popular one and then maybe an underrated one. Um, my popular one, and I'm sorry for this, Matt, it's going to be Juan Soto from the Mets. I mean, he signed the biggest contract in sports going into this season, and a relatively slow start to the year, but he's come on very strong since, and he's putting up great numbers. He has a 908 OPS that's good for a 162 OPS plus, 21 home runs. He has a 399 on base. And when you think about snubs, you got to think, well, like who made it instead? Because maybe guys made it who were better. And unfortunately, there's guys that's not quite the case. I could go talk about Kyle Stowers with the Marlins. However, there's a rule where every team gets an all-star, and so sometimes the bar is lowered a little bit, and it just is what it is. But I'm going to compare it to a guy who's arguably my favorite player in all of baseball, and I know Matt loves him. But Fernando Tatis Jr., you compare his numbers versus Juan Soto's, and pretty much across the board, Juan Soto is having a better season than Fernando. And the Padres had some other all-stars make the team, so I think Juan Soto has to be a snub. And we'll see, maybe someone else backs out. If there's an injury or something, he should be first off the board. But yeah, very surprised to see him not make the team.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not a Juan Soto hater. I'm just a guy who doesn't love pure DHs. But that's beside the point. I think, I'll defend my guy a little bit here. I've had this conversation with quite a few friends who, decided to talk some shit when Tatis got announced. I think the thing with Tatis that people forget is how dominant he is on the defensive side of the ball, and that has to count towards something. The All-Star game can't only be offense. And, as exciting as that would be, it's like in right field, Tatis is leaps and bounds ahead of the rest of the right fielders. So I think that kind of gets him the nod alongside him being just such a notable player. But in the same breath, Juan Soto was also my choice. I absolutely think he got slipped. For all that it's worth, I think he should be in there over a guy like Kyle Schwarber. Personally, I think that he's had a better year, and they literally have it on here as a DH spot. Like, he could have been the DH. And so it is what it is. But I did have him as my snub as well. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and to go with my under the radar pick, I'm going to go with Carlos Narvaez, who, maybe a little biased here. He is the catcher of the Boston Red Sox, my favorite team. But as far as catchers go, he's having a great year. I know Cal Raleigh, obviously far and away the best catcher this year. He got the starting nod, as he should have. But the backup catcher for the American League is Alejandro Kirk, and of the Toronto Blue Jays. And I feel like it was a little bit of name recognition going on here, where, it just, Narvaez is a rookie. He wasn't like a highly touted prospect. He didn't really have this reputation behind him, and he's just solidly been good the whole year. And so I kind of hope to see him. The Red Sox did get a few other All-Stars on the team, including Alex Bregman, who's missed a lot of time, so I didn't entirely expect to see him make it. So in the end, it kind of, it balances out. But I would have liked to see Narvaez make it, who has been the best defensive catcher this year, and he has 2.9 baseball reference WAR compared to Alejandro Kirk's 1.6 so far this year. So thought that was a miss as well.
Yeah, my other snub, because the way I did, I kind of went NL AL. Um, might surprise Drew that I'm also picking from the Red Sox. My snub here is going to be that Trevor Story couldn't find himself in the All-Star game. Very quietly, Trevor Story's having an incredible year. Last I checked, he was like top five in RBIs. The dude is healthy. He's playing, I suppose, good enough defense to stay on the field, but his bat has really been there this year, and I'm sure guys like Zach Kinstry are deserving. But like you said, there's other guys from Detroit that are already on here, so it's not like they had to have a guy. And I would just be shocked that a guy who's top five in RBIs isn't an all-star, right? Like, despite maybe the OBPs that Kinstry brings or the positional versatility, whatever you want to say, Trevor Story's been hit. And I don't know, you're talking about a guy who historically is a name brand kind of guy, the guy that a lot of baseball fans probably would root to see in the All Star game, and I think was well deserving of it, and I would say got snubbed.
Yeah, and that's not a shock to me that he didn't make it. His season on a whole has been pretty solid, and I'm happy with it. But his May was so abysmal that I could see a lot of voters. The players vote in the reserves for the most part. I could see where they thought some other guys deserved it over him. But yeah, I mean that it's been a resurgent year for Trevor Story, his first healthy season in a while. So we love what we're seeing so far.
Right on. Well, that is one part of the All-Star festivities, and it's the first part we covered, but it's technically the second thing that happens because the first thing that happens is the Home Run Derby, and that's happening too. So, the field was finalized today as we're recording this on Thursday. What do we think about the field? Who are we excited to see? Are we excited to see everybody, or is there someone that stands out? What do we think about the Home Run Derby field as now it's taken full shape?
Personally, I'm excited. It doesn't have a lot of the like biggest name guys that we're kind of used to seeing, but I think it just has a lot of really cool and young and exciting players in it. Um, and I mean, hey, if you want to kind of usher in a new era of players, here's a perfect way to showcase them. If some of the like older guys aren't willing to get in there and kind of get it done, then too bad. Like we've got a lot of really cool guys that are stepping up, and I think will be really fun. Then a few guys who I think have just kind of gotten overlooked in their careers. I mean, I think about like Byron Buxton getting in here. He's awesome. Byron Buxton's awesome. So the fact that he's gonna get in here, he's a little older, but like, who cares? Like to get to see him and he's finally healthy. I like it.
Yeah, it's a really fun field. They changed the format of the home run derby a while ago now, but it used to be a much slower paced kind of easy batting practice type of vibe. Um, and I think the sluggers of the time were more willing to participate in something like that. Now it's all about how many can you hit, how like in a short amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes a lot out of them. They're just swinging, swinging, swinging. Before you had to be much more selective with what you swung at. Now it's like just swing at everything because you need as many as possible in that amount of time. That being said, this is a really exciting group of guys. I mean, Acuna playing at his home ballpark. We've seen him do it a couple times, but he just hits the ball so hard. He's going to be exciting. James Wood, we already talked about him as an exciting all-star participant. He's a perfect candidate for the home run derby, just big and hits the ball hard, mashes. And the guy I'm most excited to see is O'Neill Cruz, who I believe, looking at this list, is the only guy who is not an all-star who is in the home run derby. And he is just, I talked about those other guys hitting the ball hard. That is what he does. He hits the ball hard and he throws the ball hard. That's basically his skill set. And he has the record, I believe, for the hardest recorded batted ball in the Statcast era, and he leads the league in average exit velocity. So he's a guy that I'm really excited to see just hit some lasers out there.
Those kids are going to be in danger.
Yeah,
Yeah.
having the little kids out in the outfield. we might
Getting
be
125 off the
seeing
bat.
we might be seeing the last year of that.
I feel like any year could be the last year of that. Like, all it takes is one thing to happen, and then it can't happen. It can't be like that anymore. It's a great idea, but all it takes is one. But we'll see. Hopefully, O'Neill Cruz isn't in sniper mode. On Monday. But yeah, so you mentioned, this is a field of largely guys we haven't seen do this before. It's missing one guy who we've seen do it a lot, and that's Pete Alonso, who, has won twice and has decided that he is not going to do it this year. So, are we team let somebody else in? You've won twice, take some time, take a break. Or are we team give the people their champion? This is our guy. Can someone beat him? Someone beat him last year, but can you gotta still beat this guy to be the true home run king. Where do we fall on that?
I think it's okay. I think it's time for Pete Alonso to give someone else a chance. He's done it every year since 2019 when he was a rookie. He won the first 2 years he did it, and then he hasn't won since. I think it's time. Like, we've seen him do it. We know what he's capable of. And I always enjoyed the performance he put up, of course. But yeah, I think giving other guys a chance is great. At the same time, I would have liked to see more of the true, like the guys we think of as our big power guys in this. And we got Cal Raleigh in there, who's leading the league in home runs, so that's great. But Aaron Judge hasn't done it since his rookie year. Shohei Ohtani has only done it once, I believe. It used to be if you were a big slugger who hit a lot of home runs, you were definitely doing it, and we'd see the same guys year in and year out when we were growing up, and that's just not the case anymore. I think there's a belief that the home run derby can mess up your swing, and while I think it's definitely true that players believe that, I don't know if that's necessarily true for every player. I mean, there's countless examples of it not being the case. But I think players are afraid of it, and they don't want to do any unnecessary risk to the season they're having. But I think baseball would be better if you kept a lot of these young guys, kept 6 of them or 5 of them, but you could put in an Aaron Judge. You could put in a Shohei Ohtani. I think that would make it a little more exciting to watch, but, I'm not going to fault anyone for trying to do their best to protect themselves.
Yeah, no, I'm in the same boat. I mean, I think it'd be fun to see kind of guys that are a staple, but also I think it kind of mirrors the parity in MLB right now. Like, there are very few guys who are routinely the best power hitter season in, season out at this point. Feels like every year we get this influx of new guys who will hit 30, 35 home runs in a season. And it's the way baseball is right now. There's definitely some guys I would love to see in it who I don't think are the best power hitters in baseball right now, but like I think about the same thing with like Vladdy. I'd love to see Vlad get back in there. He's not hitting crazy power numbers right now, but there are guys that I'd love to see in it just because it's fun to see them in it.
Yeah, 100%. And you got to think too, like winning money is a part of it, right? So like
Yeah, Juan Soto was really upset.
Yeah, younger guys are more inclined to do it because they can, a lot of those younger guys don't make a lot of money right now. Now, some of these younger guys do that are in it this year. But guys like Pete Alonso, I think like one of the quotes he had about it, why he wasn't doing it this year was like, it wasn't calling to me this year. It's like, oh, I wonder why. In years past before this year and he got his extension or his new contract, the money he won was, I think, equivalent or maybe even more than he was making for a whole season. Whereas now that is not the case.
Before his arbitration years when he was winning. So yeah, it was like twice his annual salary in one day by winning the home run derby. So
yeah, so that's part of it too, and maybe part of why we don't see as many veterans who are up for the physical challenge of a fast-paced home run derby like this. But okay, so we'll see. We are going to say who we think is going to win the home run derby, but that is for later. So we'll loop back around to that. So we'll move on now to talk about the Astros a little bit. So we've mentioned on this show that they are, they have in the last month or so really surged to the top of the division, and even the top of, toward the top of the AL as well. And so we wanted to talk a little bit in depth about why are the Astros, succeeding at this point. They don't have hardly any, players from their previous run of domination left. And so, who's doing it now? And so let's talk a little bit about that first. Who is contributing to this, this continual, the seemingly uninterrupted run of dominance atop the AL West for the Astros right now?
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if I was gonna say I don't know what you were gonna say, Drew, but right off the bat, I think someone who's quietly having one of the best seasons right now, just period, is Hunter Brown, the pitcher.
Yep.
Obviously, he made the All-Star roster, so he is getting recognition. But when you're talking about a guy who's just known by the wide fan base, I don't know if this guy is. And yet, very quietly, is just having arguably one of the best, if not the best, pitching seasons this season. Right up there with Skeens, right up there with Tariq Skubal. He's been dominant. So I think when you're talking about a guy who I think he has like a 1.9 something ERA or something like that. It's like when you have a guy with a sub-2 ERA this deep into a season, you're pretty much writing in a W every time he comes up to pitch. With league average offense, which obviously they have. So I'd say, I don't know if you're going to lean that way, Drew, but there's a few other guys as well, but he's been awesome.
Yeah, when it comes to pitching, you got to start with Hunter Brown. He has been amazing for them. He's right in the thick of the Cy Young conversation for sure in the American League. Framber Valdez is also having a good year as always. It seems he has been kind of their ace for the last little bit of dominance. So those two guys at the front of the rotation have been holding it down. You also have Josh Hader, who made the All-Star team, closing down games, and Brian Abreu in the bullpen easily could have been an All-Star, I think, as well. They don't take too many relievers, so that's just kind of the way it goes. But on the offensive side of things, I think you got to shout out the fact that they were able to capitalize on the Kyle Tucker trade. At the time on this podcast, I was so anti that trade. If you're the Astros, I thought if you have a proven star player in Kyle Tucker, it's better to just go for it this year and see what you can do. But the guys they got in, Isaac Paredes is one of them, who also has replaced Alex Bregman in the lineup, who left in free agency. He made the All-Star team. He's been having a great year for them at third base. And then the rookie Cam Smith has been holding it down out there, having a great year. And then shout out their last All-Star, Jeremy Pena. I think he's on the IL at the moment, unfortunately, but he's having a breakout year after being kind of just the same type of player for a few years in a row. He is just hitting the crap out of the ball. He's a great defensive shortstop. So a true breakout from him combined with some of these other guys they've had just performing well in a division that I think is a little bit weaker than people expected. So all those factors come to play, and the Astros are just at this point a trusted entity. Even if the names change, they're a team that has earned the benefit of the doubt, more so than even the Rangers, who won the World Series a couple of years ago, the Mariners, who had the best pitching staff last year. It seems like the Astros don't get too caught up in the noise and just keep going out there and playing, and they keep being a good baseball team.
Yeah, man, the fact that Paredes and Cam Smith are second and fourth on the team in OPS, they're both hovering. One's right above 800, the other's right below. That's incredible replacement for a guy who also was hitting, in the mid to high 800s. They basically replaced him, if not more than replaced him. And me and you were both on the same page. Kyle Tucker is the type of guy that you think could compete for an MVP. He's just an all-around five-tool star. And they replaced him. And like, love them or hate them, the Houston Astros, they did it. And right now the whole thing is working. And the bringing in Christian Walker, he's had a bit of a down year by his standards, but he's still doing not too bad. Like Jake Myers randomly is batting over 300 for the season. Like they're just putting it together, man. They know how to put a team together.
Yeah, one of the like saddest moments watching an Angels Astros game like a couple years ago, and then there have been a lot, but one of the saddest ones was like watching Jeremy Pena play over like the course of his first full season and being like, oh, I'm really gonna like this guy. Like I like Jeremy Pena a lot, and he plays for a team that I have to, watch play against the Angels for a long time. And so, yeah, it's a super bummer to have a player that I like so much play for a team that is a bitter rival. But I like him a lot too. He's great.
I mean, he's the reason they were okay with Carlos Correa leaving, and
Yeah.
he, at this moment, is definitely better than Carlos Correa. So,
Oh, for sure.
It's crazy historically. Like every time they've let a star player go, they absolutely seem to have had the answer right behind them. Like there really has been minimal fall off from all these guys that have left this team.
Yeah. So speaking of guys who have left this team, we mentioned a lot of new names just now, newish names, if not brand new this year. So I wanted to ask this. You look at that lineup and you don't see Correa, you don't see Bregman, you don't see Springer, you don't see these guys from the 2017 championship team, right? Altuve is the only one really left that's an everyday contributor. And so do you think that the stench of the sign stealing scandal is off of this team now? Or do you think that as long as Altuve remains in the lineup and the uniforms remain the same, basically, like as long as they look the same as they did back then, do you think people will always be just disgusted by Astros' success?
depends who you ask. I mean, you're asking me right now. There hasn't been stench for a while, to me, but you ask a Dodger fan, and that stench will remain until they take their last breath, I think. So, it is what it is. I don't necessarily blame any fan for feeling robbed of anything from back then, but you have to recognize this is a different team. They have not like there's just no way they could get away with doing this still. So like you have to take into account like they're not doing it anymore. They weren't doing it 2022 when they won a World Series again. Um, and yeah, Altuve is the only hitter left from that team. And by all accounts, Altuve is a great guy who maybe, there's kind of mixed reports on this, but like seems like wasn't even a big user of the sign stealing at the time. So I think if you're just a general baseball fan and you're still really upset about the current Houston Astros because of what happened in 2017, I think you need to get some perspective and kind of just move on a little bit. And that even goes for Dodgers fans. You've won 2 World Series since then, so 2017, you can be mad about 2017 without letting it affect how you feel about the 2025 roster. Now, you don't have to root for the Astros, you don't have to like the Astros, but you can't just point and call them cheaters anymore. I think that's just kind of silly.
Yeah, I think, that last part you said is definitely true. Like, you can't just sit here and still call them cheaters. You can't call them on the same stuff that happened. But I kind of feel for the Dodger fans where I'm like, when your team is on the opposite end of a cheating scandal, something is ingrained in you that feels like it lasts a lifetime. Like, I was like 5 years old, and I can still feel the generational trauma of Tom Brady and the Patriots cheating against the Rams. Like, that is so ingrained into me that I have to hate the Patriots. And I feel like that's probably how 2017 Dodgers fans feel, or any Dodgers fan that's been a fan since the general timeline of that. Because, like, you can't take it back. Like, you can't get it back. The Dodgers will never get that World Series title, even though they feel like they probably are entitled to it. And the same thing, like I feel their pain. I'm not sitting here saying like, oh, the Astros, like they're cheaters, they suck, blah blah blah. I don't like the Astros. I'm not an Astros fan, but also I kind of can feel the pain from the other side. So I don't know. I do think it depends on who you ask. Like if you're a non, if you were a fan of neither of those teams, probably get over it. If you're a Dodgers fan, you can be hurt and still not be whiny and make a big scene of it. But like,
Yeah.
I'm okay with you holding that. I feel that.
I think where I get a little frustrated with Dodger fans when they hang on to it is that it's easy to simplify things and being like, that was the World Series matchup. It was Astros Dodgers. The Astros cheated and they won. So therefore, the Dodgers should have won the World Series. But I think that's just way oversimplifying things because you have to take away everything the Astros did that year, and then who knows who the Dodgers play in that World Series? Who knows? The Yankees have a gripe because they got beat in the ALCS that year. The Red Sox have a gripe because they got beat in the division series that year. And then really any team that lost to the Astros in the regular season has a gripe. And so it's like, where does the domino end? And I have a hard time thinking the Dodgers definitely 100% would have been the 2017 World Series champions if the Astros had not been cheating. And the Dodgers, like I mentioned before, they've won 2 World Series since then. There's no doubt that they are a good team. If anyone should have a bigger gripe, I think it's the Yankees because they haven't had even that kind of success. So, but yeah, as a whole, I mean, it's going to be a stain on baseball forever when you think about that year. But to associate it with this team right now that's playing games, I mean, Cam Smith was probably in freshman year of high school or something when that went down. Like, he was not a part of that. So
And he probably loved it.
yeah. So
Yeah.
so I think, I mean, like I'm honestly just kind of tired of hearing about it, and this is now the 8th season since then. Until Altuve, Bregman, Springer, Correa, until they're retired, I don't think we'll stop hearing about it. And then even then, they'll show up on the Hall of Fame ballot, and the discussion will come up again.
Yeah,
So
that's going to be a long, many years of hearing that come up year after year. But last thing on the Astros before we move on, speak of all this championship success that they had over the course of that first run of dominance here. Can you see this Astros team as one that could make the ALCS this year? If they make it into the playoff field as they are right now.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, if they're pitching the way they are, if they're hitting the way they are, why not? AL is pretty wide open at this point. And I mean, honestly, both sides are pretty wide open at this point, but it's like I can't point to a team that is so clearly the best. Like early on when we did all of our predictions, the only team we felt like was like a lock for at least championship was probably the Dodgers. I don't even feel like that's a lock at this point. So if that's the case, anyone who's making playoffs could make it, man. I mean, when you have a guy that's pitching like that, 2 guys really, you got a chance at anything.
Absolutely. I mean, the ALCS for sure. I mean, right now they're the second best record in the American League behind the Tigers. So even if you just went chalk with the playoff bracket, then yeah, they would be in the ALCS. I think the other teams right now that if the season ended today would be in the playoffs in the American League, it's the Tigers, the Astros, the Blue Jays, the Yankees, the Rays, and the Mariners. Of those teams, I think the Astros have to have the biggest benefit of the doubt, like the most trust that they won't choke away a playoff series. Now, I know the Tigers beat them in the wild card series last year, and the Tigers have a better record so far this year. But if you match them up in a championship series, I don't know that I would automatically take the Tigers. I mean, that would be a really fun series to watch. Hunter Brown, Tarek Skubal, Game 1. I'll be locked into that. But yeah, I think the Astros are absolutely a contender this year, coming out of the American League, and I don't really see anyone else that I'm like they're definitely better in the American League. I think the National League as a whole is much stronger than the American League is, but Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I looked it up, and we have I think something like late August, a Tigers Astros to look forward to, at least before the actual postseason starts. So we'll see how that goes. But moving on into our next segment here, our fan corner segment. So let's start in Boston with the Red Sox, and let's get the scuttlebutt on what's going on over there in Red Sox land.
The Red Sox have been red hot. They're on a 6-game winning streak right now. They're playing as we speak. I actually am glancing away watching it. But they're in a 6-game winning streak. Granted, it's 2 sweeps. The Washington Nationals were the first one, and then the Colorado Rockies were the second one. We've talked about these teams before on this show. They are not very good. The Nationals are so bad that after the Red Sox swept them, they fired their manager and their general manager, and the Rockies are on pace to have the worst season ever. So I'm not going to take too much out of those specific series. However, there are trends that I like. They are scoring a lot of runs. The offense is kind of, it's clicking for some guys who have been struggling. Jarren Duran has been great in recent weeks. Roman Anthony, after some bad luck to start, his hits have been falling in. Ceddanne Rafaela has been a revelation basically since the end of May. And starting pitching behind Garrett Crochet has stepped up. Lucas Giolito has been a reliable starter. Brian Bayo has been a reliable starter. So there are things to like. And as of now, we're like a percentage point behind the Mariners for the last playoff spot in the American League. And the trade deadline is coming up in a few weeks, and I'm very curious what the Red Sox do because I think they should buy. I think they should try to get some starting pitching. The question is who's gonna leave? Because I think someone from the major league roster is gonna have to get traded. Because right now the outfield is Roman Anthony, Ceddanne Rafaela, Wilyer Abreu, Jarren Duran, and just coming back yesterday, Masataka Yoshida. So that's 5 guys for 4, but really kind of 3 spots. And I just don't think they're not going to send Roman back down. He's been one of our best hitters, and they're not going to trade Roman Anthony. I don't think they're going to be able to trade Yoshida because he makes too much money, and I don't see them trading Ceddanne Rafaela because he's on a good long-term contract, team friendly, and he plays the best center field in baseball. So Jarren Duran or Wilyer Abreu, I think, are going to get traded. I'm hoping it's Duran. I've talked about it on this show. Maybe the Padres could be a fit. The Phillies could be a fit. There's been some smoke about Joe Ryan being an option from the Twins. So maybe we see something there. I'm just really curious what they do, and I hope they buy. It's going to be real rough coming out of the All-Star break. You've got Cubs, Phillies, Dodgers, back to back to back. So you're really going to find out what you're made of. But for some reason, I'm optimistic because as bad as the Red Sox have been at times this year, it's not that they just get beat down by good teams and then play good against bad teams. They kind of just play good sometimes and bad sometimes. So the opponent doesn't always matter, and I trust that they can step up and play well against a good opponent. We'll just see how that shakes out because that could be a real difference between buying and selling at the deadline. And I hope they buy. It's been a while since they've been like true buyers at the deadline. I'd like to see a starting pitching addition. Maybe they walk the line and sell off some pieces and buy, but I just don't want the vibe in the clubhouse to be that, oh, they don't believe in us, so why should we believe in ourselves? So that's how we're feeling about the Red Sox right now, and hoping they can come back against the Rays right now. It's 3-1 in the 7th inning, so let's go.
I'll tell you what, Drew, that exact coming out of the All-Star break for you guys, that was basically the exact schedule we had starting the season, and we went 14-2, and things looked very different. So things can always change.
things can
But
change, and let's go to San Diego next year and talk about the Padres, who did start 14-2, but have not had a streak like that since then.
no. I've, I mean, I'm gonna exactly how I wrote it. I feel like I'm beating a dead horse here. Um, I've been saying the same thing, and I think a lot of Padres fans have been saying the same thing. Um, and our team, the vibe and the product we're putting out isn't gonna change until something changes. Um, we have been in need of a left fielder and a catcher, one of which needs to be a right-handed hitter. And we've been in need of those for arguably the whole season. But obviously, we had some off-season additions, veteran guys who were given a bit of a leash. Some of them are being given a bit too long of a leash, but we've already gotten rid of, Gurriel. We already got rid of Hayward. Next up, we've got to get rid of Martin Maldonado and Elias Diaz. These are guys that our 8 and 9 holes right now are the worst in MLB by OPS. They are the worst with runners in scoring position. Our defensive, our catching defensive war, I believe, is either 29th or 30th right now combined. Um,
So what does Martin
Jan-
Maldonado do? I thought that was his whole calling card is that he
right,
could
right,
catch.
and that was the whole thing. Everyone's been saying is, the reason that he was brought in this year was because apparently he's like Dylan Cease's guy. That was like his personal catcher. He wanted Martin Maldonado, and he's having the worst season he's had ever. Um, and in a contract year. It's just this like really weird thing. And, Schultz come out and said like, he wants to give Maldonado a bit of a longer leash because he really only cares about what they do catching wise. Defensively, he doesn't care so much about the offensive catcher. And yet both of our guys kind of just suck defensively anyways. And then both of them can't hit a ball. So I don't know, it's a weird spot because I feel like we're in the same boat. The Padres could be either or at the deadline. There's been a lot of chatter about us selling guys like Dylan Cease, Robert Suarez, Luis Ariz. We obviously have some guys on this roster who are in the last years of their contracts, and we don't know that they'll be back. Um, and at this point, I look at guys like Dylan Cease. Obviously, the talent's there. We've seen it. He can be an awesome pitcher. But right now, with Martin Maldonado and kind of just the situation as a whole, he's got like a 5 or 6 ERA as a starter right now. It just seems like his confidence isn't there. He's in the last year of a contract. Like, could we package Cease with some other things and go out and get ourselves a competent catcher or a better hitting left fielder? And would we be that worse off? Could we not have someone in the minor leagues or in our bullpen right now go out and put out the same product? I mean, 6 ERA, a lot of guys could pitch 6 ERA starting pitching. So it's I don't know. I've been saying the same thing over and over. As is, we may compete for one of those last wild card spots, but I just don't see us going on a run when our 6, 7, especially 8, 9, like that back end of our roster just can't really get it done. Um, yeah, I have no faith in those guys at the end. And it sucks because it feels like constantly we are getting ourselves, runners at first and second or bases loaded, 1 or 2 outs, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, great. Well, Bryce Johnson is coming up in the 8 hole, and absolutely he's hitting a double play that's going to end the inning. And then we have to lead off with Martin Maldonado ground out to third. Like, they've just become so predictably bad. Needs something to change. At this point, the NL West has gotten a little bit stagnant because I mean the Dodgers are in a big losing streak right now. The Giants have been kind of like us, where they play great at times, bad at others. Um, yeah, the NL West is kind of just stagnant, and I think it's just waiting for one team to make a move, whether it be selling or buying. So we see.
Yeah. Well, there's the Padres, and then now let's briefly touch on the Angels. They had much the same week as they've had a lot of weeks. They won a little, lost a little, and they. I'll tell you the one thing that I will say about this week for the Angels is it does illustrate something that is present, that is true about this year's team that hasn't been true about teams in past years. If the game's close, they just don't quit. They took the Blue Jays to extra innings twice, 2 games in a row, and then they lost the third game by 1 run as well. And then in the series against the Rangers that they're in the middle of right now, they actually have a chance to win the series, or split the series, something like that. Win the series tonight. So we'll see how that goes. But they've been high scoring close games, except for the second game, which was 13-1 in favor of the Rangers. But the ones where the Rangers just keep taking the lead and the Angels keep tying it up and then taking their own lead. So that's been interesting to see. There's not a lot of quit in this year's Angels team, which makes me nervous about the deadline, that maybe the front office will have that same mindset. They don't want to quit, and so they'll, make some moves that are ill-advised. But we'll see. I don't know that they'll do anything crazy, but I feel like the most likely option is that they may try to marginally improve and see if they can, push their way to the third wild card spot. I don't think that it's going to be all too possible no matter what moves they make. But we'll see with the Angels. But it's been fun to watch them. Mike Trout homered twice in last night's game. That's always good to see. Him mashing is good to see. He may be just in DH time. Like, I don't know that he'll see right field again this year, to be honest with you. Like, it doesn't sound like they're in a rush. They've called up, they brought in LaMonte Wade Jr. as a backup to Jorge Soler. Like, Jorge Soler's the backup out there. The backup to him is LaMonte Wade Jr. So, like, they're not in a rush to get Mike Trout back to right field. So he might just be in DH time this year, and he's gonna that'll be interesting to see if that's the case. But that's really it for the Angels. Nothing crazy. Yeah. Sorry to this man, but
who cares?
I've been looking. I just, as you were talking, I was looking at the American League wild card standings, because the Angels and Red Sox are pretty close to each other, 3 games apart.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Red Sox, like I mentioned, are the first team off. They have a plus 55 run differential. Every other team below them, except for the Rangers, has a negative run differential. The American League is just they're bad, and they're like truly bad. Even the mid teams. I mean, the Royals and the Angels are essentially the same record right now. Terrible run differential. The Rangers were aided by a 13-1 win, I guess. So, but they have a plus 33. It's just such a wacky year.
I think that third wild card spot, it doesn't go to the Mariners or the Red Sox. I think it's just like someone's just going to get bounced. Like, they're going to get their butt kicked, and it's going to be really embarrassing if one of those other teams sneaks in. But let's scoot. We gotta move forward to Locked In, get our predictions in for this week. And I told you we come back around to Home Run Derby. Both of our predictions this week are who we think is going to win the Home Run Derby, but we'll start with Drew here. In the last show, the prediction was that another notable trade would go down, unless I missed something. I don't think so, right? Not yet?
No, the closest thing we had was this morning. The Orioles traded reliever Brian Baker to the Rays. It's really, like, that's not a notable name. But it's kind of the first move of maybe the deadline season, because he's like a setup man, decent arm. It was for a relatively high draft pick in this year's draft. Yes.
Kevin Durant got traded.
Yeah. Kevin Durant, that was not what I was talking about. I think that might have happened actually before. Well, I mean, that took forever to actually get done because it was like 7 teams in the end.
It went official like 2 days ago.
Yeah. But yeah, so nothing too big yet. But as I talked about Brian Baker, I'm watching him debut for the Rays and walk the first 2 batters and then give up a double to Marcelo Meyer. So we're right back in this thing. So good trade. I like it so far. But yeah, my prediction for this week, no trades or anything. Like you said, it's my pick for the home run derby winner, and you may have been able to guess based on how I talked earlier, but I'm going to pick O'Neill Cruz. I think it's very hard to predict the home run derby. You never really quite know who's going to show up, but he just hits the ball so hard. I think he'll be swinging free and easy up there, just focusing on pulling the ball in the air. I think he has the least to lose and the most to gain. I think we've kind of some of the shine of O'Neill Cruz has worn from a couple years ago when he came up and he just had all these tools. He just hasn't put it together totally yet. I'm still holding out hope for that, and I think the home run derby could be the springboard to future success.
All right. So we've got O'Neill Cruz as Drew's winner. And then, so we'll move to Matt now. Last show, I subbed a prediction in. And my prediction was that Jurickson Profar will hit 5 home runs in the next week. Look, he didn't hit one. So that didn't go good for me. But look, process over results. The process was good. He had hit 2 home runs in successive days, and he was going up against the 2 teams who lead the league in home runs given up. So process was good, result was bad. Doesn't mean it was a bad pick. And so
that goes against Matt's
Dallas
record,
does
though.
not condone sports gambling.
No regrets. Yes, no regrets. So Matt, make your prediction for this week. What do we have here?
Yeah, so I think it's going to be Acuna that takes home the gold at the home run derby. I just, he's at home, he's comfortable, he has been insane since he's come back from his injury.
He's an all-star, and he's played a month and a half. Like
Right.
that's
and the thing is, like I would say, deservingly so.
Yep.
Like,
yeah, for sure.
It's
And it's in
not even
Atlanta. He's got to
Yeah.
do it.
And it's just one of those things where I was like, he's just been so crazy since he's come back. I can't wait to watch him hit. I love Ronald Acuna.
Yeah, I would not be the only person I would be mad if they won the home run derby would be Jazz Chisholm, and that's just because I'm a Yankee hater. I actually like Jazz, but yeah, Acuna winning would be pretty sick.
Yeah,
100%. Underrated All-Star Game storyline. I think Freddie Freeman made the All-Star team. He's going to Atlanta. That's always fun. He's been back since he left, but it'll be good to see the Atlanta crowd see him. I think there's good feelings there. But let's okay. So that's O'Neill Cruz and Ronald Acuna Jr. as our winners. So we'll see who comes out on that. Maybe someone will surprise us. Who knows? But I think those are solid picks based on who's in the field. And so let's end the show on our titular segment here, Dingers and Stingers, and let's start with Matt, and let's start with your stinger, if you would please.
Yeah. So my stinger this week, not baseball related, but just sports related. Quarterback season 2 came out, and it has started to air, and people have been watching. And one of the quarterbacks on this season is Jared Goff, someone who I have a huge soft spot for. He made the Rams into something alongside, McVay and a couple others, but he has really come out kind of guns a-blazing against the Rams in some of the opening episodes, really just talking a lot of shit, putting them down, saying how much he felt like he was mistreated and misguided and no one wanted him, and he's really put on this big pity party, and he's done that a little bit here and there throughout the years, but obviously with a TV show centered around him, they're kind of giving it the spotlight, and it's just making it hard to keep rooting for him, because it's like, dude, we gave you the fattest paycheck, and then you came out and sucked and gave us one of the worst Super Bowl performances ever, and we traded you away and instantly won the Super Bowl with your replacement. I get you being upset, but at the same time, you got paid. You got paid and then didn't perform at your job. So for you to say oh, it just felt like I was stabbed in the back and I wasn't wanted, and I want to root for Jared Goff. He's just making it hard right now. I still wish him nothing but the best, but him and Detroit are just making it tough to root for them, man. They've been so toxic and petty. So, Just getting annoying.
Yeah, I'm never gonna blame an athlete for getting whatever chip on their shoulder they need to perform at the highest level. But
Totally.
it's like when you're Jared Goff and you've had the career you had to the point up until when he got traded by the Rams, and you get traded for Matt Stafford, how are you not like, yeah, I mean he's better than me, like you just like I hate when they just can't be self-aware whatsoever. It's the same, Devers getting mad when he got moved off third base. You are the
Mhm.
worst defensive third baseman in baseball.
Yeah, well,
You
and
know,
it's something that athletes do all the time that I think it's overlooked. But when there's such a spotlight put on it, I think people realize like how annoying the behavior actually is. Because it's the same thing as the Chiefs every year going, yeah, no one believed that we could do it. You guys are number one in the power rankings for the last like 6 years. Everyone thought you could do it. Like, there's not a
yeah,
single person who didn't think you couldn't do it. So it's just like,
yeah.
at some point, they got to make up whatever they got to make up to to get themselves to that point. It's just, I don't know. When there's such a spotlight on it, it gets a little annoying. And I want to root for Jared Goff. So when he talks like that, it just makes it hard to.
All right, Jared Goof, you are on thin ice with this podcast. So sharpen up. All right, so Drew, let's go to your stinger for the week, and then we'll end with the good.
Yeah, so last week in the episode, my dinger was that Backyard Baseball 2001 was coming out on Steam. It was also coming out on the app stores, so you can get it on your phones. It was very exciting for me. I talked about it last week. But I knew at the time that there was going to be three players not in it. I just didn't know which players from the original game were not going to be in it. And the stinger for me is that all three are guys that I picked every time to be in my starting lineup. So they did get little replacements, little generic name replacements that have the same stats as them and everything. But it's not the same. And the three guys are Ken Griffey Jr., Barry Bonds, and Frank
Cheater.
Thomas. Um, Barry Bonds is not a surprise at all because Barry Bonds was not in video games for a long time. But Ken Griffey Jr. not being in it was a real shock because he was like the guy in that game. It was like him and Sammy Sosa and then Pablo Sanchez, who's the fictional star. So that's a real bummer. And then Frank Thomas, no clue why they did this in the original game, but they made him really good at pitching. So he was always my pitcher because he was the only one who was good at pitching and hitting. So just a bummer not to have those guys included, but it is still cool overall for a new generation to get to play these games again.
Yeah, it'll be good to see. Yeah, kids excited about a game like this. Hopefully, it spreads far and wide, and we can really get it roaring again. Okay, so let's end with the good, and let's go back to Matt for a personal dinger for the week.
Yeah, so as you can tell from my voice, I've been a little sick. As you know from the podcast, I recently had a child. So it's fair to say I've been out from slow pitch softball for quite a few weeks. But I just had my glorious return for our wild card playoff game. And I'm happy to report I had a solid game, went 2 for 2 with a walk, 5 RBIs. We had a great win. Uh, Absolutely sucked playing. I felt like I couldn't breathe, but you know what? We do what we have to.
Michael Jordan had something similar one time.
This was my flu game.
Your flu game, equivalent to my entire intramural career. 2 hits, a walk, and 5 RBIs. That 5 RBIs might be generous. It might be generous. But equivalent to my entire intramural softball career. So well done. Big attaboy from the other members of the podcast here. And so let's end with Drew's dinger. What's going on that's good in the sports world for you this week?
Well, I'm tempted to share some of my personal accolades.
Why not?
Because I play baseball. We had All-Star Weekend this last weekend.
Softball's just as good.
And there was no like merit system for making the All-Star team. It was basically, are you available to play? But they played a game that was it was nine on nine, which normally there's more than 9 people batting in the lineup. There's always 9 on the field, but everyone played each position for 1 inning. It was you just cycled through. So that was super fun. I caught for the first time since maybe fourth grade and threw out a base stealer. That was cool. And my team won. But my real dinger is that Alex Bregman, who has been, he made the All-Star team. He's been great for the Red Sox, been also hurt for the last month and a half or so, is coming back. It was announced he's going to play in this series that we have with the Rays. He's probably, I'm guessing, going to be activated tomorrow for his return, but no rehab assignment in the minor leagues or anything. He's just coming back to join the squad and couldn't have picked a better time. We're firing on all cylinders. So after Devers got traded, we haven't had that true middle of the lineup bat. Other guys have stepped up, but to trust someone there means something different, and Alex Bregman is that guy. So very excited to have him back on the team, and we'll see where we go from there.
Yeah, how long has he been out now?
It was like May 21st or something like that was his injury. So
almost 2 months.
Yeah, been a while.
Not a bad little, they say this mostly about players who have missed the whole season, but not a bad trade deadline acquisition,
Yeah.
kind of a thing of, you
Sure.
missed him for most of the season so far. So, call it that.
Mhm.
He'll be on. Okay. So there you go. That's our show, our baseball show for this week. Stay tuned for our football show coming soon. If you're watching, thanks for watching. We always appreciate it. Comment below let's just be honest. Comment below who won the home run derby. Comment below which All-Star did great in the All-Star game. Let us know what you think about, all of that. But also follow us on Instagram if you have time to do that. Dingers and Stingers is the name of the account on Instagram. Follow us there. And until next time, take care, and we will see you then. Bye.
And I have thoughts on the AFC North.